Recorded Books and One-Click Digital present The Collected Stories of Lydia Davis, narrated by Thérèse Plummer, Mia Barron, and Jonathan Davis. And now, the first installment in this collection, story, narrated by Thérèse Plummer.
I get home from work and there's a message from him. That he's not coming. That he's busy. He'll call again. I wait to hear from him, then at 9 o'clock I go to where he lives, find his car, but he's not home. I knock at his apartment door and then at all the garage doors, not knowing which garage door is his. No answer. I write a note, read it over, write a new note, and stick it in his door. At home, I'm restless. And all I can do, though I have a lot to do since I'm going on a trip in the morning, is play the piano. I call again at 10:45, and he's home. He's been to the movies with his old girlfriend, and she's still there. He says he'll call back. I wait. Finally, I sit down and write in my notebook that when he calls me, either he'll then come to me, or he will not, and I will be angry, and so I will have either him or my own anger, and this might be all right, since anger is always a great comfort, as I found with my husband. And then I go on to write, in the third person in the past tense, that clearly she always needed to have a love even if it was a complicated love. He calls back before I have time to finish writing all this down. When he calls, it's a little after 11:30. We argue until nearly 12. Everything he says is a contradiction. For example, he says he didn't want to see me because he wanted to work, and even more because he wanted to be alone. But he hasn't worked, and he hasn't been alone. There's no way I can get him to reconcile any of his contradictions, and when this conversation begins to sound too much like many I had with my husband, I say goodbye and hang up. I finish writing down what I started to write down, even though by now it no longer seems true that anger is any great comfort. I call him back 5 minutes later to tell him that I'm sorry about all this arguing, and that I love him. But there's no answer. I call again 5 minutes later, thinking he might have walked out to his garage and walked back, but again, there's no answer. I think of driving to where he lives again and looking for his garage to see if he's in there working, because he keeps his desk there and his books, and that's where he goes to read and write. I'm in my nightgown. It's after 12, and I have to leave the next morning at 5.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?